Hey guys, pile in here. Come on. I've got a good one. Y'all want to hear this one right now. You don't want to have to wait and catch this one on the replay. Let me get a cigarette. We're going to be going back to Hawkins County, back to 2011. And this is a horrible crime that the grandfather thinks could have been prevented. And we're going to be discussing Ronnie's favorite word, unfounded. And this is about a little girl that you see on the picture. Her name is Emily Bernard. And she was 3 years old when she got killed in Hawkins County. She was beat to death by a 25-year-old woman named Amber Beth Gibson on July the 23rd of 2011. She had been living with her grandfather, Bill Bernard, on his property, and her father, Eric Bernard. And Eric had met this girl, Amber, and after they had dated for a couple of months, they moved on to Bill's property in a camper there. And Amber had been helping with the little girl and everything. And even though Bill Bernard knew law enforcement, nobody said a word to him about a felon living on his property. Nobody opened their mouth and said a word. Nobody said a word about her previous involvement with the methamphetamine labs, her previous involvement in being a suspect in previous robberies. He had no idea of the type of person that was living on his property. Now, in 2010, there was a robbery of a pretty prominent citizen there in Rogersville. And it was pulled off by two people. One person hit him from behind with a tire iron, while the other person robbed him of $300 cash in his pocket. Well, the one that robbed him of the $300 in cash was caught. And he told the police detectives when he was caught who his accomplice was. And Ronnie Lawson's exact words were, because the citizen could not identify who she was because he was hit from behind. The guy that they arrested, his statement was unfounded. Now, do you not think that he knew who he pulled that robbery off with? Do you not think he knew who his accomplice was just a few minutes earlier? So, because Sheriff Lawson said it was unfounded. One guy sat in jail while she was left on Bill Bernard's property. And just a couple of months later, a baby was beat to death. Now, the father, Eric, and the grandfather, Bill, was out cleaning out brush in the yard. And evidently the baby wet herself. And Amber was out of her pills that day. She was out of her roxycodone. And she admittedly pushed the baby. And then began to hit her until the baby started having a seizure. Nobody really knows what happened in that camper that day except her. She called Eric from wherever he was working on the other side of the yard and told him the baby had fell. Well, he and his grandfather called for help immediately. Well, they airlifted the baby to Johnson City Medical Center immediately. And here's the saddest part, is they said that the baby was brain dead there on July 23rd. But because of how severely her injuries were, here's what the newspaper stated. This is Sheriff Lawson's statement to the newspaper. It says, authorities stated the child was brain dead on July 23rd, but was kept alive by machines solely for the purpose of forensic investigations to monitor healing of her injuries, which established a timeline for exactly when they occurred. And they finally let her expire on July the 25th. And that hurt my heart. That hurt my heart to know that she was kept like that. Just for forensic purposes. Then Ronnie Lawson said that he would not go and lock her up for murder charges until the autopsy come back. But he did send somebody to go arrest her on a robbery charge. Well, it took 5 months for the autopsy to come back. So she sat in the jail for 5 months on a $250,000 bond. And the autopsy come back that it was multiple blunt force traumas to the head. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but multiples. Okay? And then he finally, in 2012, over a year later, puts murder charges on her. Or right at a year. It seems like is what it was. And then puts a $500,000 bond on her. She got 60 years for the child abuse, 15 years for one robbery, 8 for another. And I think a total, it was like, and then she made some sort of plea deal. It was like 70 years total for everything after she made the plea deal. And then the grandfather released his statement of what I told you earlier, that it all could have been prevented and it never would have happened had somebody just said something. Had he just investigated her, had they come out there and talked to her about that robbery, where her accomplice named her as, hey, that's the woman that pulled off that robbery with me. And he said, had the police even showed up out there and questioned her, she wouldn't have been on that property with that baby. But when I heard Lawson say unfounded, and it was never investigated, it reminded me of how lazy Hawkins County Sheriff's Department can be. And this whole case that I have been looking into today has just made me mad. I mean, just furious mad. And then I found a link where she's able to get on the internet on like this jailbabes.com to find pen pals and love mates and stuff like that. But that is just, hey, Tambo, that's all beside the point. That's a whole different fight. But and the robberies, one of them was like a blind date robbery where she would set these guys up and she would send them text messages, and then when she would meet them, she would rob them for their pills and their money and all this stuff. And she was shooting up roxycodone, which is like, I guess, a pure form of oxycodone. And that's what she was supposedly out of the day that she hurt the baby so bad. And then, like I said, the pure fact of knowing that she was the only one with that baby and knowing that she was the only one that could have hurt that baby, and then he would not put any kind of charges or neglect charges or abuse charges or anything on her until he put that baby through more hell of the forensic investigations and then the autopsy, and then he decided to arrest her. And I think it was because of all the pressure to the public, or from the public. They said that there was people taking and piling flowers at the doors of the sheriff's office, begging for justice for Emily. And taking bundles of roses and baby flowers and piling them outside the Justice Center and, screaming justice for Emily. And there was a lot of pressure on him from the public. Or I don't know that anybody probably would have been arrested for it. Tragic. It was just tragic. And the more I look into this counting, ugh, yuck. And then you got this Wainwright woman trying to pass off the cost of Summer's search as COVID related and trying to get money out of the state or from the federal government in COVID funds to replace their money that they used in the search for Summer. Right. I'm beginning to believe that. The bigger criminals there wear badges. And are the ones that are related to the ones that wear badges. I'm going to make a video on this little girl and put her pictures and everything together and do like a little remembrance video because she was just cute as she could be. It was just tragic. And there has been a lot of kids that I found one just like 5 months before Summer disappeared that had another 5-month-old that had been beat to death. Just right down the road there in Mount Carmel. But I have not seen any charges. I have not seen any follow-ups. I have not seen anything on that. I've been watching it for like the last week or so, just trying to watch it to see if an update happens or nothing. No, it wasn't the baby's mother. It was the daddy's girlfriend. And her name was Amber Beth Gibson. And she didn't just shake it, she knocked her and slammed her and I think so. Like that little fire that they had, the clearing of that land. Yeah. And then they will get a lot of extra funding for that little accident that happened in Kingsport too. I don't know if Rogersville would get anything from that, but there was people from Rogersville that supposedly got hurt in that Kingsman accident. Just start watching the city council meetings. Your mouth will hang open and you'll go, wow. These people have a lot of nerve. And I really believe that they're not actively looking for Summer. I think when they went back a couple of months ago and pulled off that one little search for Summer for them 2 days, that they got in one of those little COVID grants, and they had to show that they were spending some money. So they went out and pulled a small search and said, okay, well, we spent X amount of money, and that's all we can do until X amount more comes in. But yet they will not let anybody else come back in, like Adventures with a Purpose or EquiSearch or anybody else come back in and do it for free. Because if they let people come back in and do it for free, well, then what are they going to file to get more free money? Hey, Jenna. I mean, it's almost like a racket. And like I said earlier on that video, just when I done my earlier video, there has been a lot of A&E reality TV shows going on around that area for the last 15 years that I can find. Off and on and in and out and around that area. Hey, Shannon. So if you have a lot of A&E TV crews and a lot of other small TV crews running around in and out, and you know your certain neighbors or this person or that person that's making side cash or a little extra money doing this or a little extra money doing that, I'm sure the thought does go through your mind, hey, what can I do to get on TV, or what can I do to make some side cash with these people? And, you know, then you can see that area being like that area in Georgia where them people like, what is that TV show where them real backwoods people, where the kids is crazy? The little girl used to do the beauty pageants and stuff, but she was a real big little girl. The mama used to put like Red Bull in her Mountain Dew or something. Yes, Honey Boo Boo. That's it. That's it. Now, can you not see the Wells doing something like that? But I have been looking into it, and I mean, those reality shows have been in and out of East Tennessee for the last 15 years. And they're active in there right now doing a show on a local, like, pawn shop radio type call-in swap shop type thing where the locals sell stuff, antiques and stuff like that. So I know that they're in there doing that reality show right now. And I was reading a thing where just a few years ago they were in there filming things on the Klan. Then that A&E special that's out on Hulu right now about the Lawson guy that murdered his wife on the security cameras that still hasn't been brought to trial. Ronnie Lawson, why not? And if I'm not mistaken, he was also one of the guys that was tied up in that 32 people drug roundup there close to Beach Creek with the oxycodone, the meth, the heroin, the ecstasy, and all that stuff all at one time. It's crazy. Well, that's why I'm putting out this video, because I'm going to put out what I found in the newspapers where he said that the guy she done the robbery with, when he turned her in, he said that his word was not good enough, that it was unfounded. Well, had he looked into that and at least questioned her, then that baby, Emily Bernard, would possibly still be alive. Had he arrested her when he should have, that baby would still be alive. And that's why I'm starting to call out all the BS that I'm finding in Hawkins County that is truly BS. Exactly. Money does not make you happy. Well, everybody keeps coming over what Sherfy Sr. said, but let me tell you the one big thing that I took from what Sherfy said. Sherfy was talking about when he put up chicken coops for Don's mom and how she used to get anxiety attacks or whatever. And she thought that there was people in her basement. Y'all remember that? When he said that she thought there was people cooking meth in her basement. That one statement tells you there was a basement on property number 1. Don's mom's property. There was a basement there. That was the property that Don was supposed to have demolished, right? And then he built that add-on back to it. And they built that basement. So that's basement number 2 that they're in now. Then if you have seen the old cabin off in the woods, that little shed there, the old building. When you go online and you pull that address up, you've got two addresses that actually hit as 110 Ben Hill Road. That is said to have a basement in it. So there's 3 basements on 110 Ben Hill Road. And if you have watched any of my videos this week, Ronnie Lawson said he is not taking any tips from social media. He is not taking any calls from social media. Anything that comes in off of social media, he's not even looking into. So it does not matter how many times we call up there and tell him that there is 3 basements on that property. He's not looking into it. TBI put out a statement saying if you see something on social media, to please not call the TBI hotline. I made a video out of that. So the TBI has basically said, hey, we're not looking into anything that we have seen on social media, or you have seen on social media. And it's because people have called so many times because these creators have told people, hey, call and report that gun that you seen in the window. And I want all of y'all to call and keep calling until they send an officer out there. And y'all seen the creators do it. I mean, I'm not going to call out a certain creator or anything. But you've seen these creators tell people, I want everybody in this room to call and report blah, 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 blah. And now they're not taking any reports from anybody. Because I've tried. I have sent emails to let them know, hey, the reason that Tim Mullins does not want anybody to turn on their tracking location or their GPS while anybody's out there. You know, when they signed those NDAs, they said they wouldn't turn on their GPS or their tracking device on their phone or anything like that. It's because there's that address will hit in 2 different locations, because that used to be 2 separate addresses out there. And then when it was combined, it was all combined into 110. But the biggest, that was, everybody tore everything that Sherfy Sr. said apart, but everybody missed the biggest thing that he said, and that was the biggest clue that he gave away, was he said that there was a basement on that original property. I seen that Skyline News, that newscaster, whatever. I seen that. Or some of it. And in my opinion, he just done like basic investigating, because we had so many more answers than what, by the time he put out that live stream, like we already knew Don had been working in the Meadows. He didn't even know where Don had been working, what house he had been working at. things like that. Well, we had known that for months. You know, he acted like there was some things he was absolutely lost on, and had he just watched 15 minutes of just the top creators, or just Chris M. or anything like that, you know, he could have had all of his questions answered in just a couple of minutes. But yeah, that, to me, that was real important, that to know that there was actually another basement on that property. And then there's other people. Is Carl in here by any chance? Because Don's lighting a mind. I can't pull up a map right now because I'm just on my phone. But you can pull up Google Earth. And you can drop a pin on 110 Ben Hill. And you can cut through those woods. You can, on Google Earth, you can actually zoom in. And you can see the motorcycle trails. You can see these little trails through the woods that they've made on the motorcycles and stuff. And you don't even have to touch the blacktop on the roads to get from trail to trail. And you can cut right through the woods and go right up to Frank Light's house and never touch the blacktop. And it's only like 0.3 miles. 0.3 miles. To where if you come down the driveway and then go all the way back around Light Holler, it's like 1.5 miles or something like that. But if you just cut through those woods right there, it's 0.3 miles. 0.3. That's it. 0.3. And on foot, 0.3 miles is not far. It's not far at all. And there's a lot more questionable characters up there even than the Lights, the Dykes, or the Sherfies, in my opinion. And I am going to call this out again. I can find news articles like this. I can find news articles on murders that happened yesterday. I can find drug busts that happened yesterday. I can find drug busts that happened back in the 90s. I can find drug busts that happened 6 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever. I can pull up Jody Sue and Andy's background records through Truth Finder. I can pull them up through any background check, but I cannot pull them up on any newspaper related article or any news channel related article. Explain that to me. Explain why everybody else in that community, we can pull up newspaper articles on, we can pull up newsreels on, But not those two. We can only pull up the hard records, the court records. And then question yourself. After you hear things like this, like the story I just told you, why is Sheriff Lawson hiding Jody, Sue, or Andy's records? What is the reasoning for him hiding their records? Why does he not turn their records in like he does everybody else's? I've seen that from Louisiana. That's some sick stuff right there. You know, Hawkins County says that they turn all their stuff in once a week. If you call and you question them, they turn in all their arrest records and everything once a week to the news stations and to the newspapers. And they say they turn in everybody's. Well, how do they keep missing the same two people? But the same two people keep getting arrested for running trap houses and selling Scheduled 1 narcotics. Scheduled 1 narcotics is ecstasy, heroin, LSD, Scheduled 1, mescaline, stuff that you cannot even get from doctors' offices. And then you say, well, why is the sheriff not sending those records in? There's a reason for it. And if he's not sending in those records, what else would he cover up for them? Oh, the little girl's mom was just traumatized. The little girl's mom was just horrified. And she was having a really hard time having to put one of her children to rest. And the reason I didn't mention her is because I have had to put a child in the ground. And I know how hard that is. And it wasn't her fault. So I just tried really to not bring her into it. But Lawson is just... But when I make this video, y'all just look for, like, in the newspaper reels when I run it through, look for the little yellow marks on the right-hand side, because that's where Sheriff Lawson will be quoted as saying that her accomplice was unfounded in saying that that was her that was with him when he robbed that man. And like I said, if I rob somebody, I'm going to know who's with me when I do it. So that was a stupid ass statement that he made there. Thank you. I said, when I had to read that Sheriff Lawson made them keep that baby alive on machines for 2 days so he could run forensic investigations on her, that traumatized me. I was like, oh no, that's terrible. So, all right, guys. Well, I just kind of wanted you to know what kind of sheriff that we're dealing with here. And I'm going to jump off for the night. And like I said, I just wanted to kind of share this and let you know that this is not the first child case that he has used the word unfounded and then something terrible and awful and then the child's grandfather goes on to say, well, had the sheriff's office done their job, this would have been prevented. Or had the sheriff's office just stopped by and said, hey, do you know that she's a felon that you have living here on the property? Do you know that she was busted in some meth labs? Or do you know? And, he considered himself okay with the police and thought that, if they knew she was living there, then they should have stopped by and informed him. Well, like he knows that some of these people are not going to go check their own property. Just like he knows that some of them are predators and that officers needs to go check their property, that they're not responsible enough to check their own property. Because there's people like this living in the area. He knows. He knows what's up. So I'm just going to call him out every chance I get. He's creepy. To me, he just looks creepy. He looks like a creeper. Right. But anyway, I'm going to jump off of here. And I love you guys, and I appreciate every one of y'all that sticks with me and hangs out with me. Y'all are great. And I love all you guys. And I will see y'all tomorrow on the flip side.